375 helicopters, the largest rotorcraft strike force ever assembled, descending from the sky like mechanical locusts toward a target that had made the fatal mistake of believing size equaled invincibility. Not a simple drug shipment moving through back roads, not a handful of vehicles carrying contraband. This was a mega-convoy, 237 vehicles stretching across 15 miles of Mexican highway, carrying enough narcotics to poison entire nations, and protected by what intelligence agencies called the most heavily armed criminal force in North American history. The Sinaloa Cartel had spent 3 years planning what they called Operación Tsunami, a massive drug shipment worth $18 billion on American streets, moving in a convoy so large and so well protected that they believed no force on earth could stop it. The procession was a testament to criminal ambition. Armored SUVs bristling with machine guns, technical vehicles mounting anti-aircraft weapons, cargo trucks reinforced with steel plating thick enough to stop rifle rounds, and a command section equipped with military-grade communications and electronic warfare systems. But their most dangerous innovation was tactical coordination. Unlike previous convoys that moved with crude security, this force operated with military precision. Scout drones flew reconnaissance patterns ahead of the main column. Electronic warfare vehicles jammed law enforcement communications. Mobile command posts coordinated defensive actions with sophistication that rivaled legitimate armies. The cartel had essentially created a mechanized division dedicated to moving poison across international borders. The convoy's route had been chosen with strategic brilliance. Remote highways through terrain that limited aerial attack options. Mountain passes where helicopters would be channeled into defensive fire zones. Desert stretches where the convoy could spread out to minimize damage from airstrikes. Every mile had been studied, every defensive position prepared, every contingency planned by former military officers who understood modern warfare. The cartel leadership believed they had created something unstoppable. Local law enforcement would be helpless against such overwhelming firepower. Mexican military units would be outgunned and outnumbered. Even American border forces would be forced to retreat when faced with a mechanized army moving with criminal determination and military coordination. They had never faced 375 American helicopters attacking with perfect coordination and absolute surprise. For 18 months, American intelligence agencies had been tracking every aspect of the convoy's preparation. Satellite surveillance monitored vehicle acquisitions and modifications. Electronic intercepts revealed operational plans and communication protocols. Even the convoy's fuel consumption patterns had been analyzed to predict movement schedules and route selections with precision that surprised the analysts conducting the surveillance. The decision to destroy the entire convoy came from the highest levels of government. This wasn't just drug trafficking, it was military-style warfare being conducted by criminal organizations with capabilities that threatened hemispheric security. The response would be proportionate. Overwhelming air power applied with surgical precision to eliminate not just the convoy, but everyone connected to its operation. 375 helicopters represented the most diverse air armada ever assembled for a single target. AH-64 Apache attack helicopters armed with precision missiles and chain guns. AH-1Z Viper gunships equipped with rockets and cannon systems. UH-60 Blackhawks carrying special operations teams trained for convoy interdiction. CH-47 Chinooks loaded with specialized munitions designed for destroying vehicle formations. The centerpiece of the force consisted of aircraft the cartel had never encountered. MH-6, Little Bird helicopters, small and incredibly agile aircraft that could operate in terrain where larger helicopters would be helpless. Their pilots were among the most skilled in the world, trained to conduct precision strikes in environments where inches mattered and mistakes meant death. The plan was elegantly devastating. Allow the convoy to enter a carefully selected kill zone, then attack from every direction simultaneously. The convoy's anti-aircraft defenses would be eliminated first, removing their ability to coordinate defensive actions. Then the assault would proceed in waves, each one designed to exploit the weaknesses revealed by the previous attack. Intelligence indicated that the convoy was approaching the kill zone with maximum cargo loads and personnel concentrations. Security was focused on protecting the most valuable drug shipments, while command elements were positioned for optimal communication and coordination. The cartel would be caught in their most vulnerable configuration, with their most valuable assets concentrated in a space where escape would be impossible. As dawn approached over the Mexican countryside, the convoy continued its advance with mechanical confidence. Engines roared as hundreds of vehicles moved in coordinated formations across terrain that trembled under their combined weight. Radio chatter between convoy commanders was filled with anticipation about their approaching success and confidence in their overwhelming firepower. High above, invisible to ground-based radar and silent in their approach, the helicopter armada moved into position. Each aircraft had specific targets, specific timing, specific weapons designed to eliminate convoy elements that conventional forces couldn't engage. The surprise would be total. The destruction would be absolute. At exactly 0547 hours, the Mexican dawn exploded into violence as 375 helicopters struck the convoy with precision that redefined the meaning of overwhelming force. The surprise was so complete that convoy commanders had no time to issue warnings before their command vehicles were transformed into burning wreckage by missiles they never saw coming. The first wave eliminated the convoy's eyes and ears with surgical accuracy. Apache attack helicopters, approaching from maximum range at different altitudes, launched Hellfire missiles that homed in on the scout drones and electronic warfare vehicles that provided the convoy's tactical advantage. Reconnaissance aircraft that had been flying protective patterns around the main column simply fell from the sky as their control stations were destroyed by precision strikes. From every direction, the helicopter armada descended like a mechanical storm. Little bird gunships, flying nap-of-the-earth missions that used terrain features to mask their approach, appeared from behind hills and rock formations like deadly insects emerging from hiding. Their miniguns chattered as they raked the convoy's flanks, targeting fuel trucks and ammunition carriers with precision that created chain reactions of secondary explosions throughout the formation. The convoy's anti-aircraft defenses, so carefully positioned to protect against aerial assault, found themselves facing an enemy that attacked from dimensions their doctrine had never anticipated. Helicopters struck from directly overhead, firing down through the thin top armor of armored vehicles. Others approached at ground level, using the convoy's own vehicles as cover, until they were close enough to engage with devastating accuracy. One ZSU-23-4 anti-aircraft gun, its crew desperately trying to track incoming helicopters, was struck by 3 separate missiles fired from different aircraft. The first destroyed the radar system, blinding the operators. The second penetrated the vehicle's armor, killing the crew instantly. The third hit the ammunition storage, creating an explosion so intense that nearby vehicles were damaged by flying debris. The convoy commanders who survived the opening seconds found themselves in a nightmare scenario that no amount of preparation could have anticipated. Radio communications collapsed as command vehicles were systematically eliminated by precision strikes. Electronic warfare systems designed to jam enemy communications were destroyed before they could be activated. The convoy's sophisticated coordination disintegrated into chaos and confusion, but the cartel fighters weren't helpless victims. These were experienced military personnel who understood convoy defense, and they began implementing tactical responses designed to counter helicopter attacks. Smoke grenades created concealment that blocked thermal imaging systems. Machine gunners fired suppressing bursts at helicopter positions, forcing some aircraft to change their attack vectors. Some defensive actions showed brief success. A technical vehicle mounting a heavy machine gun managed to damage a Black Hawk helicopter with sustained fire that punctured its fuel system. The aircraft was forced to withdraw for emergency repairs, marking one of the few tactical victories for convoy forces during the entire engagement. But individual successes were meaningless against overwhelming numbers and superior technology. For every helicopter that took damage, 20 more were available to continue the assault. The convoy's vehicles, designed to fight ground-based opponents, were helpless against an enemy that could attack from 3 dimensions, with weapons specifically designed to defeat armor and cause maximum destruction. Black Hawk helicopters, their side doors open to reveal special operations teams armed with heavy weapons, swept over the convoy in tight formation. Door gunners opened fire with .50 caliber machine guns and automatic grenade launchers, their rounds capable of penetrating vehicle armor and eliminating personnel with precision that turned each pass into a harvest of destruction. The systematic elimination continued with mechanical efficiency. Cargo trucks carrying billions in narcotics were targeted by specialized munitions designed to destroy both vehicles and contents. High-explosive rounds punctured reinforced trailers, starting fires that consumed drug shipments worth more than most nations' annual budgets. The convoy's fortune literally went up in smoke as truck after truck was consumed by flames. Meanwhile, Chinook helicopters approached the convoy from unexpected vectors, their massive frames bristling with door-mounted weapon systems. Their gunners had clear fields of fire on convoy elements that had positioned themselves for protection against smaller aircraft. Heavy machine gun fire swept across formations of vehicles, shattering windows, puncturing fuel systems, and eliminating defensive positions with overwhelming firepower. The convoy tried to scatter, implementing contingency plans designed for exactly this scenario. But the Americans had anticipated this response, and Little Bird helicopters were positioned to intercept fleeing vehicles with precision that bordered on supernatural. These small, agile aircraft darted between escaping trucks like mechanical hummingbirds, their weapon systems eliminating targets with accuracy that left burning wrecks scattered across miles of countryside. The psychological impact on surviving convoy personnel was devastating. These men had joined the operation because they believed their overwhelming numbers and firepower made victory inevitable. Now, they were trapped in vehicles that had become death traps, watching their comrades die while helicopters circled overhead like mechanical angels of death. As the engagement entered its final phase, the scope of destruction became undeniable. 237 vehicles, representing years of preparation and billions in investment, were being systematically eliminated by an enemy that attacked with coordination and precision that overwhelmed every defensive measure the convoy possessed. When the roar of helicopter engines began to fade and the last explosions echoed across the Mexican countryside, the transformation was absolute. Where once there had been the largest criminal convoy in history, now only burning wreckage stretched across 15 miles of highway. 237 vehicles, carrying $18 billion in narcotics and protected by the most sophisticated criminal army ever assembled, had been reduced to twisted metal and ash. As attack aircraft continued circling the battlefield like mechanical vultures, specialized teams moved in for the systematic elimination of anything that might be salvaged, studied, or used to understand American tactics. This wasn't just about destroying a convoy, it was about ensuring that the knowledge, technology, and capabilities it represented could never be recovered or replicated by other criminal organizations. Combat engineers, deployed by heavy-lift helicopters, began placing thermite charges on vehicle hulks that had survived the initial missile strikes. These weren't random destructions. They were surgical eliminations designed to destroy specific components that might provide intelligence to surviving cartel elements. Communication systems were vaporized. Weapon systems were melted beyond recognition. Even armor samples were rendered useless for analysis. Intelligence teams, working frantically before the final destruction began, gathered evidence that revealed the true scope of the convoy's ambitions. Documents recovered from command vehicles showed this was just the first of 6 similar operations planned over the next 2 years. Training manuals indicated that convoy personnel had received instruction from former military officers from multiple nations. Financial records revealed corruption networks that had enabled the acquisition of military-grade equipment and expertise. The psychological impact of the convoy's annihilation rippled through criminal organizations worldwide within hours of the engagement. Communications intercepts revealed cartel leaders struggling to comprehend how their most powerful asset had been eliminated so quickly and completely. The mechanized force that was supposed to guarantee safe passage for drug shipments had been destroyed by opponents who attacked from dimensions that convoy doctrine couldn't address. The economic devastation was catastrophic beyond calculation. Conservative estimates place the value of destroyed drugs at $18 billion, the largest single loss in criminal history. The vehicles, weapons, and specialized equipment represented additional losses exceeding $2 billion. The convoy's destruction had eliminated more criminal assets in a single engagement than traditional law enforcement had seized in decades of operations. Recovery operations revealed the precision of the helicopter assault. Despite engaging over 200 armored targets with high explosive weapons, collateral damage to surrounding areas was minimal. Mexican civilians reported hearing explosions and seeing smoke, but no innocent structures were damaged, and no non-combatants were harmed. The destruction had been so focused that investigators found wildlife living normally within yards of destroyed convoy vehicles. The international implications were immediate and far-reaching. Criminal organizations in Colombia, Afghanistan, and other drug-producing regions took careful note of what had happened to the world's most sophisticated trafficking operation. The message was unmistakable. No convoy was too large, no protection too sophisticated, no route too remote to escape American military attention when drug trafficking threatened national security. Mexican government cooperation with American anti-drug efforts increased dramatically as officials realized that neutrality was no longer viable when criminal organizations operated with military capabilities. The demonstration that convoy forces could be eliminated with such precision and completeness made collaboration with American authorities the only realistic strategy for maintaining regional stability. The few convoy members who had escaped the destruction found themselves in a changed criminal landscape, where large-scale operations were no longer viable. The communication networks that had coordinated convoy movements were compromised. The financial systems that had funded such operations were exposed. Even the expertise required to plan such complex movements was eliminated along with the personnel who possessed it. Other criminal organizations abandoned similar projects after analyzing what had happened to the Sinaloa convoy. Mechanized drug trafficking operations were canceled. Military advisors were dismissed. Investment in convoy-style operations stopped entirely as criminal leaders realized that such visible displays of power made them vulnerable to overwhelming retaliation. Satellite imagery from the engagement site showed the transformation with stark clarity. Where morning had revealed a powerful convoy moving with military precision, evening showed only scattered debris and smoldering ruins. The highway that had carried criminal ambitions toward their destination now served as a graveyard for those ambitions. Environmental assessments conducted in the following weeks revealed the surgical precision of the operation. Despite the massive destruction of criminal assets, damage to legitimate infrastructure and natural environments was minimal. The operation had eliminated billions in drug assets and hundreds of criminal personnel, while leaving the surrounding ecosystem virtually untouched. 375 helicopters had delivered a message written in smoke and destruction. There is no convoy too large, no protection too sophisticated, no criminal organization powerful enough to challenge American determination when drug trafficking threatens national security. The vehicles that were supposed to be unstoppable had been stopped permanently. The convoy that was supposed to be invincible had been crushed completely. The cartel convoy was annihilated. Their trafficking empire was buried beneath tons of scrap metal and ash. And the lesson was permanent. Those who wage economic warfare against American communities through industrial-scale drug trafficking will face destruction delivered from dimensions they cannot defend against, by opponents whose capabilities exceed anything the criminal world can comprehend. Total. Absolute. Without possibility of resurrection or revenge. The sky had spoken to the highway, and the highway had become a graveyard in response.